Today I'm going to be ranking every LEGO Star Wars set from 2019 from worst to best. A couple of weeks ago I put a poll out on my story and I asked you guys what year of LEGO Star Wars you wanted me to rank next, and surprisingly you guys picked 2019, which I definitely wasn't expecting, but 2019 is still one of my favorite years of LEGO Star Wars, so I am pretty excited to do this video. So without further ado, I have a total of 37 sets to get through, and starting off all the way back at the 37th spot, the worst set from 2019 in my opinion is 75235 X-Wing Starfighter Trench Run. And I mean, it's definitely a no-brainer to have this set at the back of the list. It's a 4+ set, and you guys know how I feel about 4+ sets. I think they're pretty useless. I don't think they should exist. I think kids would enjoy a battle pack more than these. But not only is it a 4+ set, it's also one of the worst 4+ sets. Obviously, the builds are awful, but on top of that, the figures aren't interesting at all. It's just R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker, which we've seen in multiple other sets, along with a Family Guy Stormtrooper, which we've also seen in multiple other sets. At the 36th spot is another 4+ set, that being 75237 TIE Fighter Attack, and the builds in this set are just as bad, if not worse than the builds in the X-Wing set. However, the reason I put it one spot higher is simply just because of the minifigures. A TIE Pilot and a Rebel Fleet Trooper are just a bit more interesting than the figures in the X-Wing set. At the 35th spot, I have 75239 Action Battle Hoth Generator Attack, and I don't even know if very many people remember these sets, let alone actually own any of them, but they were called Action Battle sets, I'm pretty sure, and they were genuinely one of the weirdest sub-themes LEGO ever tried to push. I mean, based on looking at this set right here, I think you get the idea. It's just little goofy builds with targets on them, and when you shoot them with the giant spring-loaded shooters, they like break apart or something. I mean, I guess the idea of it actually is pretty cool. I just don't think they executed it very well. I really think the best thing that came from these sets was that they provided an easy way to get those giant spring-loaded missiles, which nowadays are kind of hard to find. But other than that, it definitely makes sense why this sub-theme went under. At the 34th spot, I have 75238 Action Battle Indoor Assault. This is another one of those action battle sets, and if you can't tell already, I'm really just ranking them based on their minifigures. And the reason I put this one spot higher is simply because of the Scout Trooper. I mean, me personally, I would take a Scout Trooper and an Ewok over a Hoth Rebel Trooper and a Snow Trooper. And then at the 33rd spot, I have yet another action battle set, that being 75241 Action Battle Echo Base Defense. This was the largest action battle set LEGO released, with a retail price of $60 US. It also has quite a few builds compared to the other ones as well, but like usual, the builds are really goofy looking, especially that AT-AT. That thing is freaking diabolical. I do have to say the Hoth turret is actually pretty solid though, but regardless, the reason I rank this one as the best action battle set is simply because it has 5 minifigures, 3 Hoth Rebel Troopers which look really good, along with 2 Snow Troopers that also look really good. I mean, it was almost like this was a small Hoth army builder for $60, which I think is pretty cool. At the 32nd spot, I actually have another 4+ set, that being 75247 Rebel A-Wing Starfighter. And I really hate to say this, but the build in this set actually looks kind of decent. I mean, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, it's still a 4+ set, but I would argue this is probably one of, actually, dare I say, the best 4+ set build. Again, it's not anywhere close to perfect, but it's definitely better than the average 4+ set. And then on top of that, you also get an awesome looking A-Wing pilot, which is the main reason I ranked it this high. I mean, the A-Wing pilots are just really solid figures. It seems as of late, LEGO just never messes them up, especially their helmet mold. It looks very, very good. So yeah, I mean, again, I hate to say this because I really do not like 4+ sets, but this one is actually pretty solid. At the 31st spot, I have 75227 Darth Vader Bust, and I actually almost left this set out of the list because it's an exclusive promotional that was pretty hard to get your hands on. It was only available at the 2019 Star Wars Celebration in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure Target also had it as well. But aside from it being a promotional set, the actual build itself just doesn't look very good. I mean, the shape and the color of it are really the only things that resemble Darth Vader, because I mean, the face of the thing doesn't look good at all. I mean, it barely makes out his face. It's almost like this thing is just a Darth Vader silhouette and not actually Vader himself. But I do have to say, I would rather have this over any of the 4+ sets or any of those action battle sets I just talked about. But now making our way into the top 30, at the 30th spot, I have 75229 Death Star Escape. And this set has just never been very interesting to me. I feel like it doesn't have much to offer. I mean, the idea for this set is really good. It's a very iconic scene in Star Wars that would work well as a small playset, but I just don't really think LEGO executed it in the best way. It looks tacky, the play features are underwhelming, and the minifigures aren't really anything special. But I do still think it's better than all the other sets I've talked about so far. At the 29th spot, I have 75246 Death Star Cannon, and unlike the Death Star Escape set I just talked about, this one is actually pretty solid and definitely executed a lot better. The build is definitely more interesting, the cannon looks pretty solid, and on top of that, you also get a cool Death Star gunner along with Obi-Wan Kenobi. One thing I do have to say though is that the cannon could definitely be better. I mean, I put it one spot higher than the other set because obviously a giant cannon is cooler than the Death Star Escape scene, but back in 2014, LEGO released a Death Star Troopers battle pack which had this exact same cannon, and it looks significantly better. and that's a battle pack of all things, not an actual playset. So since the build in the battle pack absolutely mogs the build in this set, I definitely think this one could be a lot better. At the 28th spot, I have 40333 Battle of Hoth 20th Anniversary Edition, and this is actually another promotional set. This set was 2019's May 1st gift with purchase, and I actually really enjoy the miniature diorama sets. I think they're such a fun concept, and they're super fun to display. And for this one in particular, I like everything about it except the AT-AT, which is kind of a problem because the AT-AT is literally the centerpiece. I mean, the terrain looks good, the shield generator looks good, the snow speeders look good, but the AT-AT is just super wonky, and I think for a promotional set that was kind of hard to get your hands on, it could definitely be better. Its proportions are just all over the place, its legs are too skinny, its head is too small, and it just overall could have been a better design. At the 26th spot, I have 75236 Duel on Starkiller Base, and this is another one that I think could have just been a lot better. I'm gonna try my best to explain this in a way that actually makes sense, but I think that trying to make this as cheap as $20, which is what it retailed for, was not the best idea because it ended up just having a very mediocre build, which then that just led to people only buying this set for the minifigures, but the problem is the minifigures aren't very interesting. The Kylo Ren is exclusive, but the Rey figure came in 5 other sets. So with that being said, I think if this set was bigger, maybe $30 to $40, and actually had an extensive and interesting build, and maybe also included Finn too, it would have just been way more interesting, would have given people a better reason to buy this set. But no, LEGO didn't do that. They decided to cheap this set down to $20, which created a situation where the only reason to get this set was just the 2 figures, but who in the world wants to pay $20 for Kylo Ren and Rey? At the 26th spot, I have 75225 Elite Praetorian Guard Battle Pack, and this is one that I honestly don't really have much to say about. I've actually always thought it was kind of a weird option for a battle pack. I mean, it is really nice that we got Praetorian Guards in a cheaper set, but I just feel like putting them in a battle pack was a bit strange. I just don't think they really fit. I feel like if this would have been maybe like a $25 or $30 playset, it would have been a lot cooler, and a build at that size, you know, would have just complemented the figures better. But still, it's a solid set, and I mean, Praetorian Guards are Praetorian Guards, so yeah, it's cool. At the 25th spot, I have 75224 Sith Infiltrator Microfighter, and as most of you guys know, I really enjoy microfighters, but this one has honestly just never really done it for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that it includes Darth Maul and was a very cheap and easy way to get him. On top of that, it also includes the Scary Face Darth Maul, which is one of my favorite variants of this figure LEGO has made, but the build on this one specifically has just never really done it for me. I know when it comes to microfighters, a lot of people don't care about the builds at all, they only care about the figure, but I'm someone that does care about the builds because many times in the past, LEGO has made microfighter builds that are really good, so I always make sure to consider them and not just consider the figure. But again, this one's just never done it for me. I think it's bland and gray and boring and just kind of doesn't stand out. Moving on to the 24th spot, I have another microfighter, that being 75223 Naboo Starfighter Microfighter. And while the minifigure in this set, that being young Anakin Skywalker, is not near as good as Darth Maul in the other set, the build in this one is really cool. Well, I mean, it is just a little dumbed down Naboo Starfighter, so I guess it's not anything too crazy, but I just think at this scale, they did such a great job on it. I think it perfectly captures the goofiness and sort of Mario Kart-esque vibe that microfighters are supposed to have, and that's something I've just always really liked about it. Anyways though, moving on to the 23rd spot, I actually have more microfighters, that being 75228 Escape Pod versus Dewback Microfighters. And the Dewback build in this set is absolutely carrying it like crazy, which probably isn't a big surprise to anyone. I mean, the Escape Pod build is alright, I'd say it's just your average microfighter build, but the Dewback actually looks really good. To my knowledge, it's the only time LEGO's made a brick-built Dewback that's not been a mold, and on top of that, I'd argue that it's the most accurate and the most applicable microfighter LEGO has ever made. And when I say applicable, I mean that this thing could pretty easily be used in mocks or something like that because it actually doesn't look too goofy, it looks pretty realistic. And while it's obviously not 100% accurate, it's a little bit smaller than it needs to be, it still gets the job done, and it could definitely be used as a creature in a mock. At the 22nd spot, I have 75262 Imperial Dropship 20th Anniversary Edition, and this is a set that I've honestly just always had mixed feelings about. That's kind of why it landed right in the middle of the list. On one hand, it's like, oh, it's a remake of a really awesome classic battle pack from 2008, and it's a nice army builder for stormtroopers, and it also includes the last Shadow Trooper LEGO ever made. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh, it was the first set to include the Family Guy stormtroopers, and was kind of the start of the downfall of LEGO stormtroopers as a whole. Although one thing I will say is that the Shadow Trooper looks way better with the Family Guy helmet than the stormtroopers do. But yeah, like I said, my opinion about this set has really just always been all over the place. I've really never had one solid set in stone opinion about it. It's like on paper it's really cool, and in person it's also kind of cool, but not executed in the best way possible because it's got the Family Guy stormtrooper helmets, and then also, I didn't even mention this, the build isn't that great either. I don't like how they kind of redesigned it from the 2008 model style, I think the 2008 model looks a lot better, and this one would have been a lot cooler if it was just sort of a modernized design of that original one. Anyways though, at the 21st spot I have 75255 Yoda, and honestly, I think this set is slightly overrated. It got a ton of hype when it first came out, and the reason is because it was one of the first buildable characters, well, not the first, but it was one of the first modern ones, because before this set, buildable characters, especially buildable characters of characters that weren't droids, were pretty rare, and when this one came out, it just got a ton of attention because it was like, oh, it's the first buildable Yoda in 17 years. But nowadays, I would almost say this set is kind of outdated. I think the buildable characters they're releasing nowadays, as much as I dislike them because they release so many, they are for the most part a lot better than this one. And also not to mention the infamous eyes on this one too. But I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I do think this one is good enough to be at the 21st spot. I think they did a good job with the back of his head and also his cloak design. For it being brick built, it actually looks surprisingly well. However, aside from that, I think this set is just, again, kind of average. It was cool back in 2019, but today in 2026, I just don't think it's all that. But now making our way into the top 20, at the 20th spot, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I have 75250 Pasaana Speeder Chase. And I'm not gonna lie, I think this set is kind of underrated. Now, don't get me wrong, it is really goofy, and the reason it's really goofy is just because the scene it's based on is just a goofy scene in Star Wars. Really just all of the Rise of Skywalker is goofy in general, but that's a topic for a different video. Regardless though, as goofy as this set is, I think both the Jump Trooper and his little tread motorcycle thing are actually really cool looking. I mean, the Jump Trooper especially, I've said this time and time again, but the First Order Trooper designs look really good, and this is arguably one of the best looking ones. And this set right here is the only set he came in. But yeah, aside from him and the Stormtrooper and the speeder bike build, the rest of the set is super wonky and tacky looking. The main skiff build that Rey rides on is pretty ridiculous looking. So really the Jet Trooper and his tread speeder thing are carrying this set to the 20th spot, but it's not going to get any higher. At the 19th spot, I have 77901 Sith Trooper Bust. And like the Darth Vader bust that I talked about earlier, this was another promotional set. However, the difference is that this one was way harder to get your hands on, as it was only available at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. It wasn't available in Target or anything like that like the Darth Vader one was. But putting its rarity aside, I think the build looks really good actually. The idea of busts in general definitely isn't my favorite because I feel like it's a weird in-between between a helmet set and a buildable character. So because of that, I don't really want to put it any higher than the 19th spot, but I will give credit where credit is due. I mean, the build looks really good. It looks like the Sith Trooper, and honestly, I would personally like to own this one day just because it looks like an awesome display piece. At the 18th spot, I have 75254 AT-ST Raider, and this set is a bit of a weird one. It was actually one of, I'm pretty sure the first Mandalorian set that released, and you know, back in 2019, this definitely was a very fun set because the Mandalorian had just come out, so there was a lot of hype around it, and any set from it was just really exciting, and it was also cool to just get another AT-ST because it's an awesome vehicle, and despite it looking super tacky, especially that red left leg, the idea of a sort of old, rustic, scrapped together AT-ST is just really cool to me, and also it's got some unique figures too with those Klatooinian raiders. Getting random aliens like this is always fun because they can be used in mocks and things like that, but nowadays the hype of Mandalorian Season 1 is just completely dead, obviously, at this point, so sets like this unfortunately just feel super irrelevant. I mean, that's honestly the case with most sets based on new Disney shows. No matter how good they are, they just don't stay relevant for very long, and this is one of the ones that arguably got that the worst. It was cool back in 2019, but today this thing is just not desirable at all. At the 17th spot, I have 75242 Black Ace TIE Interceptor, and I'm not gonna lie, recently this set actually has started to grow on me a little bit. I mean, I used to hate this thing. I used to think it was just a super ugly design for a new TIE variant, but nowadays, I'm not gonna lie, you know, the design does actually look kind of cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still really tacky looking, and it's definitely not the best TIE variant LEGO has made, but it still has an interesting wing design. I mean, it literally looks like an energy sword from Halo, and on top of that, it's also got the Griff Halloran minifigure that's got the TIE pilot helmet with the skull printed on the front. At the 16th spot, I have a personal favorite of mine, that being 75261 Clone Scout Walker 20th Anniversary Edition, and when it comes to the oversized LEGO ATRTs, I would argue that this is probably the best one. I mean, really, I've just always liked oversized ATRTs in general. I know a lot of people dislike them because obviously they should be a lot smaller to be accurate, but for me personally, despite them being inaccurate, so to say, they just look really cool at this larger size, and also since they're larger, LEGO has more room to pack more detail onto them, and that's pretty much exactly what they did with this one. It's just a very detailed, chic looking ATRT. Although one nitpick I do have with this set as a whole is that I wish it just included the ATRT, because obviously it's supposed to be paying homage to the original Clone Scout Walker from 2005, and I think one of the reasons that set is so cool is because it's just the ATRT and a Clone Trooper. So if this one would have been the same, just the ATRT and the Scout Trooper, and then I guess Darth Vader, as 50th anniversary figure, I personally think it then would have been a lot better. But at the end of the day, that's just kind of a personal nitpick on my end. Anyways though, moving on to the 15th spot, I have 75226 Inferno Squad Battle Pack. And in my opinion, this set never truly got the recognition that it deserved, and that's always been kind of disappointing to me. And I think the reason is just because not many people played the Battlefront 2 campaign, and not to mention this set came out 2 years after the game released, so by that point the campaign was kind of irrelevant. But regardless, to me at least, I just think the troopers look so cool in this set. I mean, they're pretty much just TIE fighter pilots with red printing on their helmet. Definitely very simple, but it just looks so cool. And also I think it's great that LEGO put them in a battle pack of all things when they could have put them in a more expensive set. It's like the Inferno Squad, hence the name, is a small squad of troopers, so getting a relatively small amount of them in a small set was just perfect. At the 14th spot, I have 40362 Battle of Endor, and just like the Hoth miniature set that I talked about earlier, this set was also a GWP, except it was actually the October GWP, so it pretty much just went with the UCS Star Destroyer. But unlike that Hoth set, every aspect of this one, in my opinion at least, looks really good. Well, actually I take that back. I do think that tree in the corner right there could be a little bit better, but other than that, the rest of the build, and especially the ATSTs, look great. They have such a perfect miniature design, and I love how they're almost to scale with the miniature trees. It just makes for this perfect diorama at such a small scale. And then on the right side there, you even have the bunker coming out of the hill. Moving on to the 13th spot, I have one of the most popular sets that released this year, that being 75251 Darth Vader's Castle. And due to its popularity, a lot of you guys are probably not going to be very happy with me not putting it in the top 10. I mean, most of you guys would probably even put this in the top 5. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a really cool set. It's in the upper half of this list after all, so it is above average. It's an amazing display piece. It's super menacing. It also is from unique source material. And on top of that, we also just don't really get building sets like this in general when it comes to Star Wars. And then not to mention the minifigure lineup, while there aren't many minifigures in this set, I do think there could be more. The ones we do get are really solid. The highlights obviously being the back-to-tank Darth Vader and the blue transport pilot, which is definitely one of the coolest and most unique Imperial troopers LEGO's made before. So again, just because I didn't put it in the top 10 or the top 5, there is still a lot I like about this set, but unfortunately there are some things that I think could be better as well. The main thing is the stud shooter at the very top of the tower. I feel like this is everyone's main complaint with this set, and yes, obviously it is very easy to remove and fix, but still I just think it was kind of unnecessary to include it like that. And then aside from the stud shooter, I also feel like the interior on the back half could definitely be a little bit more intriguing, I guess. I mean, I don't really have anything specific to point out about the interior, it's just a bit underwhelming. I think it could maybe be more detailed on the inside and have more play features. At the 12th spot, I have 75258 Anakin's Pod Racer 20th Anniversary Edition. And from a visual and aesthetic standpoint, you definitely could argue that this set is pretty much perfect. I mean, the thing looks incredible. It's easily the best representation of Anakin's Pod Racer that LEGO has made before. There are quite a few stickers on it, especially at the backside where his cockpit is, but at the very least, they do add some good detail. One kind of negative thing about it though is that over time, the large transparent Technic pieces can start to sag a little bit. And actually, when I was younger and I first got this set, I accidentally dropped it one time and it landed in a perfectly upright position and the Technic piece just completely snapped, which definitely left 15-year-old me very disappointed, but I just super glued it back together and it was fine. Regardless though, over time, even if yours didn't snap like mine did, the Technic pieces can sag, but other than that, I mean, I would argue this build is pretty much perfect. At the 11th spot, I have 75259 Snowspeeder 20th Anniversary Edition. And you could actually argue that the Pod Racer is a better and more accurate build than this Snowspeeder, and that's because of the windshield piece. These Snowspeeders technically have never had accurate windshields up until 2025, obviously. So because of that, again, you definitely could give the Pod Racer the upper hand, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm just kind of biased towards Snowspeeders, and this one specifically looks really cool to me. And not to mention, you get a Hoth Rebel Trooper along with a classic Lando. I mean, what's there not to like? Anyways though, now making our way into the top 10, at the number 10 spot, I have 75240 Major Von Reg's TIE Fighter. And the reason I really like this set is because it's pretty much an unofficial Imperial Royal Guard TIE Fighter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in Legends, pretty much Royal Guards just flew red TIE Interceptors, and they looked really cool, and this set, well, it's literally a red TIE Interceptor, and it also looks really cool. Unfortunately, the figures, though, aren't anything interesting because they're just random characters from Rise of the Resistance, like who in the world even watched that show? But man, the build is so cool. It's easily the most unique TIE variant LEGO has made, and again, it's pretty much an unofficial Royal Guard TIE Fighter. At the number 9 spot, I have 75234 ATAP Walker, and this, you know, might be a bit of a hot take, but I'm not gonna lie, I think this ATAP is kind of overrated. Well, I mean, I say that like I didn't give it the number 9 spot out of nearly 30 sets, but I've always considered the 2014 one to be the better one of the two, and also just the best ATAP LEGO's made in general. I like how it's a bit taller, it's got a more upright stature, and it just overall overall looks more intriguing, I guess. And this one, as you can see here, hunches over quite drastically compared to that 2014 model. And that's always just been kind of an undesirable aspect of this set for me. But other than its posture, the rest of the build is pretty much exactly the same as that 2014 variant. I mean, everything else is just very minor changes, so in that regard, it actually looks really good. And then on top of that, it's also got a great minifigure lineup, which is actually an aspect of this set that I do consider to be better than the 2014 one. I like how this one has Commander Gree and a Kashyyyk Trooper when the 2014 one just had Commander Gree, and this one's also got the Kashyyyk Battle Droids, or the AAT drivers for those of you that want me to get specific. But yeah, overall this set is really good. I just, in terms of builds at least, think the 2014 one is better. At the number 8 spot, I have 75233 Droid Gunship, and unlike the AT-AT I just talked about, this Droid Gunship, in my opinion, is the best variant of the Droid Gunship LEGO has made before. I think they captured the shaping perfectly. The back dish piece, so to call it, is pretty much perfectly round, and then on top of that, compared to the other ones, the head has a very mean and aggressive design, which is something I've always really liked about it. One thing I do have to say though is that with all of the Droid Gunships, not just with this one specifically, is that they're really hard to make look good on display. Unless you have a stand or something to actually kind of hold them up in the air, they pretty much just look boring because they're so flat. But other than that small nitpick, it's a really good set, and honestly I think it's kind of underrated too. At the number 7 spot, I have an absolute banger, that being 75249 Resistance Y-Wing Starfighter. And despite this being a sequel set, specifically an episode 9 set, I think we can all agree it's kind of universally loved by the community. I mean, the build is simply just really pretty looking. The red and white colorway is incredible. I also love the kind of reshaping of the cockpit design of this Y-Wing. It's got a flatter look to it, which I think is really nice. On top of that, it's also got a cool bomb dropping feature, which is pretty similar to the one from the 2017 Y-Wing. If there is one negative thing I gotta point out about this set though, it is definitely the stickers on the cockpit. As you can see here, there's literally 6 of them on each side, and you have to line them up perfectly or the red stripes won't look good. And if you're someone that's bad at putting on stickers, I mean, good luck, I guess. But other than that, if you put the stickers on right, this set looks really good. At the number 6 spot, I have another Resistance Starfighter, that being 75248 Resistance A-Wing. And just like the Y-Wing, this is another sequel set that's pretty much universally loved by the community. In terms of shaping and accuracy, this is arguably the best looking A-Wing that LEGO has made before. I mean, the thing is just so sleek and clean looking, it's literally the perfect starfighter. I mean, there are some little nitpicks to point out, like the rear fins can break off easily, and also the cockpit doesn't have much interior on the inside, but at the end of the day, things like that don't really affect the overall set that much. So again, I really do think this is one of the best, if not the best looking A-Wing LEGO has ever made before. But anyways, now making our way into the top 5, at the number 5 spot, I have 75257 Millennium Falcon. And you know, despite me putting this in the top 5, I actually don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, it's very similar to most of the other Playscale Millennium Falcons, but on top of it being very similar, it actually is pretty much the best one, just behind the Dark Falcon, if you want to even consider that. Compared to both the 2015 and the 2011 models, they definitely cleaned up the gaps a little bit. The panels fit into place a lot nicer. I mean, really the only negative thing about the build is this gap right here behind the cockpit, which can be kind of distracting sometimes. But other than that, I mean, again, this is arguably the second best Playscale Millennium Falcon. Up next, at the number 4 spot, I have probably my favorite set that released this year, that being 75244 Tantive 4. And I really wanted to put this set at number 1. I mean, I think it looks incredible. The model is just so pretty looking. I mean, it's easily the best Tantive LEGO has made before, but unfortunately it has some fragility issues. A lot of pieces just fall off very easily when you handle it too aggressively, like the cannon, some of the fins in the middle, the radar dish at the back, and even the escape pods can fall out pretty easily too. And that aspect of it is unfortunately just holding it back. And I mean, again, like I said, I wanted to put this set at the number 1 spot. If it didn't have fragile areas, I wouldn't have hesitated to do that. But of course, I gotta try my best to be unbiased, and the reality of it is, despite this set looking incredible, the build is not entirely perfect. Anyways though, up next at the number 3 spot, I have what is probably the most popular set that released this year, that of course being 75252 Imperial Star Destroyer. And I mean, this set really is everything you'd want in a UCS capital ship. It's ginormous, like extremely ginormous. It's so big that it's actually kind of a struggle to move this thing around and display it and things like that. But again, since it's so big, it just has such a dominating display presence. If you own this set, you know what I'm talking about. But aside from it being very large, it also has a lot of small details. I mean, like, yes, it is a big gray triangle, but at the same time, there's a lot of detail, so it's not boring. It's actually fun to look at. But there is one main problem with this set, and it's the reason I'm keeping it at the number 3 spot. And I'm sure many of you guys know what I'm talking about, especially if you own this set. But the outside panels fall off so easily. I mean, when they do fall off, they don't break apart into a million pieces, and they're pretty easy to put back on. fun, but it definitely does get to a point where it's like every time you touch this set and try to handle it, panels will fall off and you have to reconstruct it. This is actually something I really appreciate about the Venator from 2023 because that set is actually extremely sturdy. I mean, you can handle that thing pretty aggressively actually and nothing will really fall off, but unfortunately this Star Destroyer here just isn't quite like that. But I mean, aside from the fragile panels, again, this set is really everything you'd want in a UCS capital ship. Moving on to the number 2 spot, I have another very popular set that released this year, that being 75256 Kylo Ren Shuttle. And I mean, do I really have to say much about this one? I'm pretty sure all of you guys know why this set is so good. The most obvious reason is just how much of an improvement it was over the 2015 variant. As we all know, that one was super inaccurate because it was designed based off of concept art. It's gray when it should be black, and also the wings literally don't open. But then with this one, they obviously pretty much fixed all of that. The model's black and the wings open into their V position like they're supposed to, and it looks awesome. If there is something negative I have to say about it, is that I wish it included a shuttle pilot or just an officer or something, someone that looks like they could pilot the shuttle. And then on top of that, the interior of the cockpit is kind of weak. I'd actually argue that that's something the 2015 version does better. That one's cockpit is just ever so slightly roomier, but other than those small nitpicks, I mean, this thing is incredible, and it's arguably one of the best playsets ever made. But now finally making our way to the number 1 spot, I have a set that most of you guys probably weren't expecting me to put at number 1, that being 75243 Slave One 20th Anniversary Edition. And in my opinion, this is without a doubt the best Playscale Slave One LEGO has made. And honestly, I'm gonna go so far to say it was the last good Playscale Slave One LEGO made. The 2021 and the 2025 variants are both solid, but unfortunately they're just so downsized to the point that they don't really compare to this one at all. And on top of this one being sizable, there's also really nothing wrong with this build. Both the wings on the outside are like kind of finicky and don't move the best, but in the grand scheme of things, something like that is just such a small complaint. So yeah, I mean, I would say this build is nearly perfect. And then it of course has a legendary minifigure lineup. I mean, LEGO easily could have just based this off the Cloud City scenes and included like a Bespin Guard and Lando, but instead they based it off the scenes earlier in episode 5 where we see all the bounty hunters, and they included 4-LOM and Zuckuss, and they both look incredible. So yeah, I mean, this set is overall a banger, and compared to every other set on this list, I would argue that it really has the least amount of cons with it. The build is beautiful, the minifigures are great, I mean, what's there not to like about it? Anyways though guys, that is gonna do it for this video. That is my ranking of every LEGO Star Wars set from 2019. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think about my list down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now.